Hi everyone, Ashley here and welcome to another video on my YouTube channel. Today I'm sharing how I made this fun rainbow dinosaur themed card that is sort of appropriate for Valentine's Day, but really just nice to share at any time of year when you want to tell someone that you love them or that you love them. I think this pun is really cute and I used some newer and older Lawn Fawn products for this card. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'm starting by blending the background, so I have a piece of white cardstock here that's good for blending. I'm using Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock, which I find is really nice for blending these Distress Oxide inks onto. Then I'm just taking a rainbow of Distress Oxide inks, and I'm going to list the actual colors down in that description box below the video, so check that out if you want to copy these exact same colors that I'm using. But basically I just have a red, orange, a yellow, a green, a blue, and a purple to make up the rainbow. I'm just taking my small blending brushes. You can use any kind of blending tool for this. You can use foam, you can use big blending brushes or small blending brushes. To be honest, I just got these new small blending brushes as a gift, so I was really excited to try them out, but I think big blending brushes might have been better for this because it is a big background and you're just trying to cover the whole thing with ink, so I think the bigger brushes would have been a little bit easier to use, but I was having fun using my new supplies. So I'm just blending on the colors in sort of a diagonal fashion, starting with the red in the top left corner and then just working my way through the rainbow all the way down to the bottom right corner. So as I put on each color onto the background, I'm just sort of going back and forth and blending the colors together. So you can see as I blended on that green, then I went back and took some more of the yellow and just used that to sort of blend the yellow and green together. And that just allows a little bit more of an ombre effect. So it looks a little bit less just plain stripy and more a little bit blended. I'm kind of using my finger to just hold on into the bottom right corner there where there's no ink right now, just as I continue to blend. And again, kind of just going back and forth between the colors. As I get down to the bottom, you can see the rainbow is starting to finish off and be built. I'm adding some purple now that will just give it a finishing touch and just blending back and forth with that blue to get a nice ombre and blend. And then you can see the whole rainbow is complete. So now I'm adding some ink to some of the rest of the elements of the card. So here I've cut a piece of green cardstock using the Lawn Fawn Tropical Backdrop Frame die. I'll have the actual name for it down in that description box below. Again, I list all my supplies down there, so if I get one of the names wrong, just check down there and you'll see the true name in case you want to check out this supply on your own. I took some brown and green Distress Oxide ink and just sort of blended that on in splotches to kind of just create the fun kind of jungly effect. Next, I have a piece of white cardstock that I've cut using a mountain die and a hillside die, and I'm just blending some ink onto both of those too. I used some light blue for the mountains and some light sort of tan for the hillside, and those will all come together to make the scene, which you'll see in just a moment. Next, I'm stamping out the sentiment. I like to do my heat embossing sort of early on so that I just have that piece ready to go when I'm assembling the card. So I took a piece of black cardstock and I used an anti-static tool to kind of get rid of all the static. Then I'm using my Versamark ink pad, which is a clear, sticky ink, and I'm just stamping out the I Lava You sentiment, which comes from the Lawn Fawn stamp set with dinosaurs that I'm using for this card, which is called Rarsome. I then dabbed on some white heat embossing powder, and then I can just tap off the excess into this coffee filter here. And the good thing about using the coffee filter is it's super easy to just pour the rest of that embossing powder back into the jar once you're done. I like to use a craft pick tool to just go in and remove any little stray pieces of embossing powder that might have just stuck to your paper. It's just sort of a very fine and detailed way of doing that. I took it off camera to heat set it, and here you can see that sentiment in bright white. It says I love you, and off camera I'm going to go ahead and trim that down into a small strip. Next, I'm taking this rainbow blended piece and I'm using the stitched windy backdrop die to cut it out. And basically what this does is it cuts it into an A2 size, so 5.5 by 4.25 inches, and it creates these etched sort of stitched windy lines, which kind of makes it look like wind is flying in the background, which I thought was really fun. It's just a nice added detail. Once that's done, I'm gluing it down onto a card base. And now it's time to sort of just layer up all the pieces that I've created into a scene. So on top of this rainbow piece, which represents the sky, I'm adding these mountains, which are the next layer. And this is the piece that I did cut out of white cardstock, but then added a little bit of light blue ink blending just to kind of give it a little bit of something. This mountain die set also comes with these stitched mountain tops. And I cut those out of a light gray cardstock. And I'm just gluing each mountain top onto its respective mountain that it fits onto. This, by the way, is a mama elephant die. Again, I will link that down below so you can check it out if you want to. But it just creates these really fun sort of snow-topped mountain shapes, and you can cut these out of any color or use any ink blending on them that you want. I kind of wanted them to blend more into the background, that's why I use these light colors. So once those are all glued down, now I can take my hillside piece and put that on. But before I do that, I'm actually just tucking this image of a volcano so that it looks like it's behind the hillside. I'm putting my hillside down so I can get the placement and then sort of just playing around with how much of the volcano I want to be showing and where I need to glue it, and then I can stick it down. I have off camera, by the way, gone ahead and stamped, colored, and cut out all the images I'm going to be using on this card, so I'm not showing that in this video, but it is a bunch of dinosaur and related images that all come from a Lawn Fawn stamp set, like I mentioned, called Rarsome. So once that volcano is stuck down, I can then go ahead and use some liquid glue to stick down the hillside on top, and finally this tropical frame border on top of that. So this will be on top of the whole scene. Now to stick this down, I like to add some glue all the way around the edges of the rectangle shape, but I don't add any glue behind the leaves yet because I'm not sure what other images I'm going to want to tuck in behind those leaves. So I like to leave myself the room to do that, and then once I've kind of got everything in place and I know what needs to be tucked behind, then I can go back in and add some little glue to behind those leaves and stick them down later. Okay, I knew I wanted the big words XO to be part of the sentiment, so I used that giant XOXO die, but I only cut out half, so I would just have one XO. And I cut it out twice, so I cut it out once from blue cardstock and once from white cardstock. And just taking my scissors and going in and sort of trimming it down where some of those extra letters had cut a little bit so that you see that XO. Then I can glue them together, and basically what I'm doing is using that white to create a bit of a shadow behind the blue, and this just helps it stick up from the card a little bit and just gives it a little bit of extra sort of dimension and makes it a little bit easier to see. So I'm just offsetting it the slightest amount and gluing them together. Next, I'm sort of just assembling all the pieces on my card where I want them to be and starting to build up my scene. So I had these stamped out little hearts that look like they're coming out of the volcano, and I just glued those straight down onto the scene. Now, I had kind of played around with all my images at some point, and I realized that I didn't really need to tuck anything else behind those leaves. Everything else was going to be on top. So at this point, I felt comfortable to go in and take my liquid glue and just add little dabs behind the leaves and stick them all down one by one. For this, I'm using just a glue tube that has a really fine nozzle, which helps just create little tiny dots, and you can just kind of go all the way around the card and stick your leaves down. Okay, so you can see the rest of the card is coming together. I've sort of laid out where I want all the other images. I have a few little eggs and shells down at the bottom left. Then I have this flying dinosaur up in the top left corner. Then I'm going to have my sentiment in the middle saying XO, and then on top of that I have that little black heat embossed strip that says I lava you, which I'll put right on top. And then finally I have those two pink dinosaurs down at the bottom. I colored all the dinosaurs pink because I figured I have enough color going on in this card, and the dinosaurs maybe could stay a little bit more consistent with each other just to sort of match. I'm using a combination of liquid glue and foam squares to glue all of these things down onto the card just to add a little bit of variety to the dimension. So for example, those little eggshells, I glued them down, but then a lot of the dinosaurs, I'm sticking them up on foam to kind of make them stand out from the card a little bit. Now, as a final touch, I'm just adding a few of these little paw print images along the bottom of the card, and I'm just sticking these down straight onto the card with some liquid glue, so they just kind of blend into the background and add a little bit of extra fun detail. These are, again, just one of those little extra stamps that comes in that Rarsome stamp set, and I just thought that the paw prints were really cute. So that is it. That is the final card for today. I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please subscribe to my channel, check out my other videos, and head over to my Instagram account where I post even more cards. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!